keep reading about this disruptive technology, and I was just out the Mac store down the hallway here, and I see these books, these e-books are in there, and I read about Barnes and Noble shutting down stores, and Barnes and Noble is not like a it's not like a little drugstore. I mean, that's a lot of square footage. So how is the disruptive technology affecting the retail business? Do you have any idea about that?
I can't answer that question,
All right,
John.
okay.
You're welcome. You want to answer that?
All right, it's a bad question.
It's a good question. It's hey, the Apple Store exists for a reason, right? There's that's all good news to me. That's all disruptive technology. I've never heard that term before. Is that people carrying around their BlackBerries and not communicating with each other?
Carry around books. Now they carry a little tablet that's full of ones and zeros that carry 1,000 books, 2,000 books.
Well, I think the interesting thing, if you just from a retailer standpoint, I would think that could be a challenge. From a real estate standpoint, the real estate reinvents itself. For example, the Circuit Cities that shut down.
Right.
We've just finished building out, for Ashley. They leased and bought a lot of those
Right.
old Circuit City stores. They weren't Ashley Furniture wasn't in the market yet, and so they've gone in and backfilled those. So there's no, they've reinvented themselves.
There's always somebody there to take the space.
That's exactly right. And there may be one-off retailers that get hurt by something like that, but
I mean, I think what you're alluding to here is the whole publishing business, whether it's books, newspapers, whatever. People, get their news differently than they did. I mean, I'll never forget, we had not long ago, some of our young folks, and I brought we have a Monday production meeting, and I pulled out an article. I said, did everybody see this in the paper, about this deal? And blank faces amongst a lot of our young people. And I said, you mean you didn't read this Sunday? Don't you get up every Sunday morning and read the newspaper, drink your coffee, and wait for the talk shows? And they're going, dude.
Well,
so the world is changing, and
it's changing rapidly. I remember when getting email was a huge deal. My college age kids, they don't communicate on email. It's all text messaging, and the only time I talked to my son, who's graduated from the University of Texas. Sorry, all the Aggies. Okay, but I have more kids that will be heading to college here soon. But he said the only time he emails is when he's communicating with adults. That's kind of harsh, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
I wonder how he defines an adult.
Yeah, exactly. Oh well.
Okay. All right. Let's see. What's next here? Let's talk about the office space sector. What are rates going to do in the next 12 months?
Well, I think there's still pressure on rates. Even though people are transacting and renewing leases and committing to longer-term leases, Houston, has always been a market of specific submarkets and specific buildings in those submarkets. And there's some shorter-term things that are going to impact rates in the CBD. I think one of the things that came up in one of our most recent leasing meetings is while people are renewing, they're either renewing at kind of the same square footage, or sometimes they're renewing for a little bit less. The good news in our business is that they're renewing and making decisions, and we're getting some growth. Some people are expanding, but it's modest expansion generally.
Yeah, welcome.
And I guess we're seeing shorter terms. So where you might be able to, back in the good old days, you could renew somebody for a long term. I think all these companies are keeping their options open. And so from a transaction standpoint, I think you're seeing shorter terms. The smart ones are renewing long term and taking advantage of these, what will be historically low rates.
Which I think is, starting to happen.
Yeah. But up until recently, I think everybody was just keeping their options open.
You'll get them back on the operating expenses.
Right.
I mean, we're a good example of that. We have been rolling our lease, and doing little 1 year and 2 year and 18-month expansions, and at this point, I'm kind of, as a tenant, thinking, when do you kind of sign up for a longer term lease? And I think that time could be pretty quick.
Yeah. John?
Yeah, just from the lender's perspective, I know when we look at office buildings, they're going down these rent rolls and really scrutinizing them. And if they think a rent is above market and not sustainable, they don't give you credit for it. You know, if you got a $25 rent and they think it's 22, they're going to underwrite the loan on $22. So it takes a degree of scrutiny before you qualify on some of this stuff.
Right. Okay. People are always dying to know about this topic all day today. What do you see for the future of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac?
Huh.
How does that affect you? Probably doesn't.
I think John probably is the expert there.
Well, the Fannie and Freddie, Tim Geithner has said he's going to bring a recommendation in 2011 to the president or to the Congress, whoever, on doing something. There's been a number of proposals on either combining them or changing them or whatever. It's a huge issue. I mean, this is, there's 7.7 trillion of agency paper in the marketplace, and so it's not. Mark was right. You can say, all right, this amount is bad, and we need to write it down, stick it aside, or whatever, and then go fix it. But it's a huge number, and right now it's carried off the balance sheet, so to speak. This doesn't show in our national deficit, so it's an issue that's going to be addressed. Right now, the agencies basically have they're good through 2012. The government's given them capital to.
So in other words, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's like the Jedi account in Enron, right? It's off the balance sheet.
So it's going to have to be addressed, and it's kind of in a way, if y'all will remember, some of you may not because you probably weren't born, but back during the S&L crisis, we had a huge problem. We had all these insolvent S&Ls, and it was like we wrung our hands and said, "What are we going to do? It's a $50 billion problem. What are we going to do?" Well, we created the FSLIC, and we went in and we foreclosed and took all these assets back and liquidated them again. Okay, well, this one is a lot bigger, but it's basically the same issue. There could be a solution, and I don't know what form it's going to take, but it will have to be dealt with eventually. I think they've gotten their ship righted. They're underwriting loans properly now. I've talked to builders and subdivisions that basically say, especially in the starter home stuff, it takes 10 sales or 10 contracts to make one sale because of the scrutiny that the lenders are putting on people to qualify for loans now. So I think we've got that back. They're losing money on these old Alt-A loans and subprime loans and all that stuff, and those losses continue to mount. So you can put a pencil around it. It may be $1 trillion, as Mark said, or it may be larger. Who knows? But there is a solution if we have the guts to face it. So
that financial.
And let me make one other point. The multifamily side of these agencies is highly profitable and always has been. The problem are not in the apartment loans. So we're hopeful that that's going to remain an important part of the marketplace.
Okay. All right. Any more blue questions?
We're so glad you asked.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't look good. Yeah. No, Brian.
All right, I'm just going to pick one out of the middle here.
Perfect.
All right, here we go. We're going to call this the rapid roundtable.
Okay.
So just limit your answers to these questions to like
Okay.